You are now in tune with
Mamba Radio.
All right, what up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into Brown Mamba Radio. For those of you out there who don't know, my name is Jackson, and happy Monday to all you guys out there. Hopefully you had a great weekend, and it's good for me to be back and getting on the regular scheduled grind. Hopefully I can get back on track, get back to doing 2 episodes a week, bookending the week with my hot takes and my opinions that I may or may not be qualified to give. So let's just quickly get into the good stuff, and let's take a look back at what happened this weekend and a little bit into what happened last week and stuff. Since for those of you who aren't familiar, I lost my original SoundCloud account. I had to kind of restart and re-upload everything, and that kind of really put a thorn. It was a thorn in my side, and it kind of sucks and put a wedge between my regular schedule and all that stuff. So again, like I said, resubscribe to the new channel on SoundCloud and stuff. First and foremost, it is everything's the same on iTunes and Stitcher and stuff like that, because I just fixed the RSS feed. But the new SoundCloud page is it has all the same episodes with everything re-uploaded, but the link for it's still, if you search Brown Mamba Radio, you're gonna find it. It's still there, but the link, when you do like soundcloud.com/whatever, it used to be Brown Mamba Radio, all one word. Now it is Brown Mamba -radio or Brown Mamba -radio, whatever you prefer. But that's it. Like I said, just Google Brown Mamba Radio, you'll find me. Like I said, everything else is the same. So like if you subscribed on iTunes, if you subscribed on Stitcher before, you should still be all right. But try to follow along everywhere else, you know what I mean? And I'm working on getting on Google Play for all you Android green text bubble users. I'm also working on getting on TuneIn, waiting to hear back about that. So like I said, stay tuned for all that. But again, let's get into this, the nitty gritty and the good stuff. And starting off with the Lakers, they were on a little 2-game skid, but it's okay. Like I said, they're keeping it interesting, which is always good. Like I said, they're just, as long as they stick to the plan, at least keeping the games fun, interesting, which is what they have been doing. Especially from Julius Randle. Kuzma's cooled off a little bit from how he was before the All-Star break, but that's okay. Hopefully he can get things going. Brandon Ingram's still out, which is hopefully he can come back soon. But like again, it's no rush. Like I said, we're trying to have fun and trying to win now, but we're also building for the future. You gotta, really make sure we keep that in mind going forward. And they got a little 4-game roadie coming up this week. Them and the Clippers do. So, like I said, we'll just gotta see if they can keep up the fun and the intensity, and keep it entertaining for the fans and all that stuff. But quickly, I just wanted to touch on something that I have been saying and making a point about, ever since the Lakers got Isaiah Thomas, and that, he's already, even though it's nothing serious, already starting to stir up some shit, if you saw it, I think it was in the game against the Warriors, I think, was when, excuse me, no, it might have been the Heat, I can't remember, whichever game it was a game where, Isaiah Thomas and Julius Randle were getting into it on defense, and which right away should say something. It's like, what is Isaiah Thomas saying anything about defense for? And so they were getting into it on the bench on a timeout or something, for some kind of defensive miscues. And then on top of that, he took although the shot ended up being a good look because he hit a guy with a nice move, he just took a very, he ball hogged with like 12 seconds left to just get off of a last shot. Then it ultimately ended up falling short. Everyone looked pretty upset about it. Like, come on, let's at least do something a little bit more better. Do something better than that. Then more recently, I think it was this morning or last night or something, someone asked him about the possibility of him signing back with the Celtics, and he said anything can happen. I'm open to it. And like I said, you can take that with as much of a grain of salt as you want. But it's just the fact that he's saying something like that, especially being on the Lakers and stuff like that, and as much as the Lakers-Celtics rivalry. But just the fact that he's talking about going somewhere else while he's already on a team, you know what I mean? That kind of thing that he supposedly always wanted to be a part of, and it just kind of it's just not good optics, and it's honestly pretty annoying. And the reason why I bring all this up already, he's only been with the team for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something. And the reason why I bring it all up is because as soon as I said it from the very beginning, and no one wanted to listen to me, that as much of a success story and an amazing story his run with the Celtics was, so many people just chose, and I say chose because the facts are the facts, they chose to forget how everywhere he had been before that, he had problems. He had problems with the Kings. He had problems with the Suns. He had problems with the Celtics, but he just was playing so much better with the Celtics that they kind of okay, we'll push it aside. And as long as you're producing on the floor, we'll push it aside, and then we'll we'll deal with it later or whatever. And it's just saying. And then look, it's just. And also just the fact that the Cavaliers or the Celtics had him. They knew what they had with him, and they were still willing to trade him away for Kyrie Irving. You know what I mean? After everything that he did, and they weighed all that stuff, and they knew that we're going to get a better player with Kyrie than IT. So they pulled the trigger, and obviously it worked out because Isaiah Thomas was not good at all on the Cavs. And I'm just saying, I just wanted to point that out to everybody. Don't be surprised when if more stuff starts to happen. When, I don't know, but don't be surprised if more stuff starts to come up about Isaiah Thomas. And like I said, it's just a pattern. And if it, like I always say this about anything and everything in life. If it happens one time, maybe two, they're accidents, but if it happens again and again and again, it's not an accident, it's a pattern. And like I said, we've consistently seen a pattern of Isaiah Thomas having, let's just call it polarizing opinions and a polarizing attitude. And so, like I said, hopefully this doesn't affect the Lakers in a ways that it affected, other teams that Isaiah Thomas has been on. But yeah, just wanted to throw that out there and get that fresh in everyone's minds. Now we'll move on to the Clippers. They're on a little skid themselves, 3 games. They've lost in a row now. And like I said, it's tough for them because now they are on the outside looking in currently with the NBA in the playoff picture. I said it in the last episode. It's going to be a little 3-way race or so, or 3-team race, between like them, the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, and depending on who else, maybe the Spurs, maybe the Pelicans or the Jazz, but it's pretty tight. It's pretty tight, which I'll get to in a little bit. But the Clippers, like I said earlier, they themselves have a little 4-game rodeo this week, and if they want to be serious, if they really want to get serious about making the playoffs and at least giving the optics of looking like they're a playoff contender, or they're in the business of winning and contending for a title every year and stuff like that, then they got to take care of business in this little road trip over this week. Because like I said, they're on the outside looking in right now. And I'm just gonna go ahead and switch on over to little NBA to overall in the general consensus of the league, starting with the Western Conference standings. Again, the Clippers were in the 8th spot or the 7th spot. I can't remember. I think they were in the 8th spot, and they are now currently on the outside looking in. They're in the 10th spot. It's like it is, now that I look at it real in depth, it is a 6-team race. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6-team race for the last few playoff spots between the Jazz, the Pelicans, the Spurs, who are all tied right now at 40 and 30. Then the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, and the Clippers. The Timberwolves have the 8th spot right now, and I believe the Clippers and the Timberwolves are playing tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they are in Minnesota. So like I said, that's a big game with a lot of implications. But then the Nuggets and the Clippers are on the outside looking in right now. The Nuggets, who went on I think they went on a pretty good little run earlier, but started to fall off a little bit. it's getting tight. It's getting close. And it could be it's anyone's game at this point. It's anyone's what's the saying I'm looking for? Anyone's race to win. There we go. That sounds pretty good. Anyone's race to win in this situation, and so every game matters. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting coming down to the wire. You know what I mean? There's and even like I said, 3 teams are tied with the Jazz, Pelicans, and the Spurs. And if you really want to say it, the 4 teams are tied with the Timberwolves. They happen to have one more loss than the other guys, but. Like I said, we'll have to wait and see. Everything else, it looks like, the top 4 are set in stone with the Rockets, Warriors, Blazers, and Thunder, who the Blazers on a 13-game win streak. Holy shit. Talking about the hottest team in the playoffs right now in the league, or arguably in the entire league. Definitely the hottest team in the West. But we'll have to, like I said, the top is set. But just like I said, we got to see how things go for the next couple weeks to see how the bottom half of that playoff race shapes out. And that's over in the West. Now moving on to the East. Again, it looks like the Raptors are going to secure that number 1 spot. Like I said, unless something catastrophic happens, whether they lose a bunch of games or guys get injured or something like that, who knows. Looks like they've locked in that number 1 spot. Celtics are locking down the number 2 spot. And, everything else, it seems like the teams are set between the 3 and the 8 spot, but again, it's just a matter of where they finish. 3 through 5 seem to be interchanging between the Cavs, the Wizards, and the Pacers, and then 6 through 8 seems to be interchanging anywhere between the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Heat. But other than that, the drop off is pretty significant. From the 8 and the 9 spots. Like I said, it looks like our East playoffs are set with the Raptors, the Celtics, the Cavs, the Wizards, the Pacers, the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Heat in order from 1 to 8. It's just a matter, again, like I said, a matter of where they finish, respectively amongst each other. But like I said, that's usually how it is. The West, the bottom half of the West is always really, really kind of just a big amalgamation of teams who are fighting for playoff spots and stuff like that, which just makes it interesting. The East, less interesting, but at least we know what we're gonna get, and we can kind of start figuring out matchups and stuff like that. That's kind of the way things are going right now. With the way the playoffs are looking. And speaking of playoffs, these injuries are not fun, and they are definitely hurting everyone's fantasy playoff implications. And we get it. Like I said, I get it. Fans get it. Fantasy basketball ultimately doesn't mean jack shit overall, but it does suck, and it's. Before when we would play fantasy basketball, we would have, they would have the entire fantasy basketball season coincide with the entire regular season, and usually teams started resting their players towards like the last couple weeks, but that happened to coincide with the fantasy playoffs, and ultimately guys. Usually the teams that make the playoffs have the best, or usually the best players on the teams that are in the playoffs, they rest them, but usually in that case, they're usually the best players in the league. And so it started to be where guys didn't have, or fantasy player or fantasy teams did not have their best players because the teams were resting them, and it's affected their outcome. I know it happened to me a lot. On a number of occasions that happened, and I had chances to win, but my top guys were being rested. So I didn't get that chance. So they changed the format where they can say you can have the last 2 weeks, or you can have maybe the 3rd and 4th week, but whatever, to try and avoid that situation happening. However, now teams are just resting their players earlier. Guys like Kevin Durant. I'm not saying that they're faking injuries or these are fake injuries or anything like that. Their injuries are injuries, and they're not fun. And again, like this said, ultimately fantasy doesn't mean anything. But it sucks. When then there's money on the line amongst fantasy guy or almost fantasy leagues, and guys like a guy that is important to someone's team as Kevin Durant is. It sucked when he's not there. So, but like I said, it is what it is. And like I said, I'm just happy I don't have. I'm just happy all my main guys are still playing and not injured or taking rest or anything like that. So, bless up for that. And then sticking with basketball, moving from the pros to the amateurs. March Madness is officially here. I have not, just throwing this out there, I have not watched a single whole game. So take everything that I say with any pinch of salt you want. One, I have had work this whole weekend. Two, these games are just not good. I've tried to watch most of the games. I watched some of them, and it's just bricks and bad zone defense and even worse offense trying to break these zones. It's just, they're just like, overall the games are not good, and yeah, I know that there have been some awesome moments, like all the upsets and stuff like that which are everywhere apparently this year. But just because there's been some awesome moments like, buzzer beaters and dunks and upsets and all that stuff, that doesn't mean the games are good. It just means that that's a great moment. And great for the history of the game later on down the road. But it's just, as a basketball fan watching these games, they are not good. They are boring. They are just rock fights. They are, just dribbling for about 30 seconds and then getting off a really ugly shot in the last 5. And it's like, no one wants to watch that kind of basketball. And then watching that all day long for like 3 days straight, I can't do it. So I'm just doing it. I'm consuming the most of it the way that, most people should be consuming it this way. Shout out to House of Highlights. Shout out to, CJ Zero. Shout out to Wob. Shout out to all those guys for, posting all the little clips that I can, just get the highlights and stuff from. But like I said, that is not to say that there have not been some great moments. Obviously, the upsets are all over the place. You know what I mean? We saw the first ever 16 seed take down a number 1 seed with the Retrievers of UMBC taking out Virginia, and they blew them out, by the way. Not just a takeout, but they blew them out. So we saw that. We saw Arizona go down. Loyola of Chicago and Sister Jean taking the world by storm. Making their way into the Sweet 16. Excuse me. We just seen, like I said, just a lot of like I said, not necessarily good games, but great moments. Marshall with the upset of Wichita State. I'm going through it again real quick. There's been a lot, so sorry if I don't remember them all. Nevada, two underdogs taking on each other in the Sweet 16 in Loyola, Chicago, and Nevada. You know what I mean? So Xavier, another number 1 seed. I think all the number 1 seeds out of it, if I'm not mistaken. I think they are. Yeah, let's see, Kansas is in this stuff. Sorry, Kansas. Kansas still in it, but Kansas and Villanova, excuse me. That West Virginia Villanova matchup is gonna be a good game. That's the game that I'll probably watch all the way through. Maybe even the K-State Kentucky, I don't know, but for sure that Villanova West Virginia game I'm watching. But yeah, again, that was on the up. That was most of the games for the most part, the games went the way they went. But it's just but the upsets have been so dramatic. It's crazy. That's for sure. I'm looking again. North Carolina's out of it again too. Auburn's out of it. But as like I said, as amazing as as amazing as upsets make March Madness, and as frequent as they've been this year, the question I want to ask is this a good thing or a bad thing for this year's tournament going forward? And like I said, sure, it makes for some great moments and great things we're going to talk about for a long, long time, especially with the 16 over the 1 seed, first time ever that's ever happened. Sure, it's giving some spotlight to these smaller schools, but a lot of the big name schools are out of it. Schools like North Carolina and Virginia, Xavier. Where else am I missing? I'm missing another couple. Excuse me. Cincinnati. A lot of top schools are not in it, and like I said, it's great to give some shine to some spotlight to a little bit of like smaller schools like Loyola Chicago, Nevada, Texas A&M, and stuff like that. Teams who are or in the grand scheme of things, not necessarily big basketball schools, but ultimately, it's not saying it's like a bad thing, but it at the end of the day, this is a big money draw, and for the tournament, they're smaller, not as big basketball programs for a reason, because they are usually not the greatest basketball teams. So, sure, like I said, it gives these guys some credibility and some spotlight, but we might get an even worse amount of games going forward. I don't know. We might see some more blowouts, like we saw with Clemson and Auburn, or other games like that. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see. What do I know? Like I said, I haven't watched a single game, so what do I know? Like I said, hopefully, the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight are can live up to the hype, you know what I mean, or something like that. I don't know. But like I said, just ultimately, can we get some good basketball games and hopefully some more good moments, and we'll have to see. Everyone's gonna be cheering for Loyola Chicago. They're probably gonna be the everyone's favorite Cinderella story if they can keep going forward. And like I said, just have to wait and see. But again, this is what March is made of. You know what I mean? Just all the crazy stuff going on, and like I said, just gotta wait and see. And yeah. So enough basketball talk. Quickly going to go over what happened with the NFL, because we've got a lot of old faces in a lot of new places. Continuing from the trend from the last time we talked, a lot more has happened. Definitely a lot more stuff has happened. We've seen. So either way, because there's so much that happened, so I'm going to break them down by position just quickly. I didn't go through everybody because there's way too many guys to go through. So I'll try to hit some of the top guys. With quarterbacks, like obviously we saw Kirk Cousins. He's going to Minnesota. Finally found a place to go. After years of finessing the Skins, the Deadskins, getting franchise pay for like 3 years. He's getting some huge deal from Minnesota. So shout out to Kirk Cousins, who may not be the best quarterback on the field, but you gotta like that for the way he handled everything off the field, man. Because that man is getting paid. He is getting paid in the shade. Not a whole lot of shade. I guess not a whole lot of sunshade in Minnesota, but it's all good. Like I said, I'd be feeling pretty warm. I think he can afford some heating, pretty good HVAC system with all the money he's getting. And then since Kirk Cousins is going to Minnesota, that means that Case Keenum had to find somewhere else to go, and he did. He's going to be signing a deal in Denver. Like I said, do they have their quarterback of the future? Probably not. Who knows? But they got a pretty good guy in their hands with Case Keenum, and he's definitely better than what they've had before with Paxton Lynch and Trevor Siemian and all those guys. And then, so those are the big names for the quarterbacks. Running backs, a lot of stuff happened with running backs. We've seen, a couple releases with AP and Danny Woodhead, who ultimately ended up retiring. Danny Woodhead did. But AP, what a fall from grace, man. And it's sad to see a guy who I watched pretty much his whole career. Sad to see. But that's just the way it goes sometimes, Hopefully he lands on his feet and can, this can be a humbling experience, and he doesn't have to, blow up on a coach like he did to Sean Payton, which ultimately let him get released. So the first time, like I said, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But then the other guys who are still on teams, McKinnon from Minnesota signed a deal with San Francisco. Very odd, considering I thought he did pretty well for them, and I thought he was going to stick around with them, but I guess not. And again, when someone comes in, that means someone else has got to go, and Carlos Hyde was there before, but now he's on the Browns. People are trying to say that them signing Carlos Hyde, the Browns signing Carlos Hyde, is going to prevent them from taking Saquon Barkley number 1, which I hope they don't, because that'd be very, very stupid. Carlos Hyde is good. He's not that good, and then not good enough to pass up a once-in-a-generation looking talent like Saquon Barkley is. So, like I said, now that they got Carlos Hyde, and if they take Barkley like I think they should. They'll have some depth going forward. Some other guys who signed some new teams. Jeremy Hill going to New England from Cincinnati, so that's good for them. And their running back depth, they haven't had a guy. They're just adding to the versatility. Because I can't remember who they lost. I think someone retired or they released somebody. I can't remember off the top of my head. I didn't write it down, but that's it's gonna be good for them going forward. Hopefully, Jonathan Stewart signed a deal with the Giants. Parting ways with Carolina after a long, long time. And speaking of still staying on the skills position with the receivers, I guess I'll just throw in Jimmy Graham there as well. He's pretty much a receiver. Jimmy Graham inking a new deal with the Green Bay Packers. So, even though they lost Jordy Nelson, the Packers did, and he inked the deal with my Oakland Raiders, baby. So not only, even though Aaron Rodgers lost, his go-to guy in Jordy Nelson, I don't think he's too upset that they're getting Jimmy Graham in return. Sure, he's a little older, but I think he's been injured the last couple seasons, and he's looking to, hopefully he can come in a little bit more healthy and make a bigger impact. And like I said, just the thought of what kind of a deadly combination Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Graham can be is making me scared if I'm in the NFC North and in the NFC, but licking my lips as a pause as a fantasy football player. So I'm definitely going to be trying to get that connection on my team next year. But yeah, again, and then Jordy Nelson, coming over here to the town in Oakland. So, Derek Carr's got a new toy to play with. And again, the way things all work out, when someone comes in, someone old's got to go. So the Raiders did release Michael Crabtree. So I just want to say thank you to Michael Crabtree. He had a good run here in Oakland, but he landed on his feet. He's over there in Baltimore. So best of luck to him. But other big names, moving around. Danny Amendola, inking a new deal down in Miami, leaving New England and Tom Brady. So, that's one of the first things that people are saying, is this the end of the era and the end of the Brady-Belichick era in New England? It's definitely not a good sign for it, but we'll have to, again, just like everything, we're going to have to wait and see. But yeah, Danny Amendola going down to Miami, staying within the NFC East, but yeah, going down to Miami. Paul Richardson leaving Seattle, another one of Seattle's top guys having to leave because of the way that they screwed up their cap situation. He found his way. He found his way over to Washington. And then Cordell Patterson in a trade from Oakland to the Patriots. Definitely gonna add to their special teams, which is a low spot for them in New England. So, like I said, they're gonna help out with them on the return game and stuff like that. So, like I said, that'll definitely help them out a little bit. Working our way to the offensive defensive line. The biggest news over the last couple week and a half or so was the retirement of Joe Thomas, who, just a quick clap and an old tip of the cap to Joe Thomas on a tremendous career, definitely going to the Hall of Fame. Even though he didn't win much, I think he played some incredible amount of game. He played like pretty much every single game, and not just every single game, but he played how many snaps in a row? It was like some crazy number. He played 10,363 consecutive snaps. That means not only did he not miss games, he didn't miss plays either. So he was on the field for 10,363 consecutive snaps. And that, of course, ended at the end and towards the beginning of last season, where he got hurt. But, like I said, a tremendous career. Even though he didn't win much over there in Cleveland, he never complained, always worked his butt off. He definitely did his part to try and protect those shitty Browns quarterbacks, and most of the sacks that were given up were not his fault. So again, tip of the cap to Joe Thomas. He's retiring, and then another lineman in the news. Mike Pouncey was released from Miami, and now I'm not 100% sure. I don't follow the Dolphins like that or anything, but if he's still as good as I think he can be and stuff like that, someone's going to get a good center. And, like I said, he's still got a lot left in the tank, I believe, and someone's going to get a good center. So I guess we'll have to see where he goes. And speaking of another player being released from Miami, Ndamukong Suh has been released from the Dolphins. Who knows where he's going to land? He's definitely got a lot of baggage. We all know about that. But that does not mean that he's still not a great player and an impact player. The only thing is, I think it's just his contract is just way, way, way too big. We're going to have to wait and see where he goes. I was thinking he might end up in New England because they need the help. But New England went out and got Adrian Claiborne from the Atlanta Falcons, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out, as far as where Ndamukong Suh is going to land. But yeah, so Adrian Claiborne making the jump from Atlanta to New England. Like I said, trying to beef up their defensive line, and who knows, they can still get him. They can still get Suh. They definitely need all the help they can get. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see. The only thing is his it's just the teams are going to have to weigh them, weigh the options of. Is his contract and his history of who he is and how he's been outweigh his play on the field. So like I said, we'll have to wait and see about that. Another one, Vinny Curry, defensive lineman for the Eagles, no longer. He is signed to deal with Tampa Bay. Definitely a big part of that defensive line and part of why they won the championship last year. So like I said, hopefully he can make an impact down there and for the Buccaneers. And then probably the most surprising news of the most surprising move from this whole unofficial or technically the beginning of the NFL season was when Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, was released by the Cardinals. It's very, very strange and weird that they would not. Apparently, it was because they couldn't agree on a contract, and I don't know why they would not have, or the Cardinals wouldn't have tried to work something out and keep a guy as a playmaker and as big of an impact player as Tyrann Mathieu is. But it's their loss, and it's the Houston Texans gain. So they re-signed. They just picked him up on a deal. I'm not sure what the details of that deal are, but just gonna have to wait and just like I said, gonna have to see. It didn't seem like he's lost a step, even though he was injured a couple seasons ago. So like I said, it's very strange, very, very strange. But the other biggest signing was the signing of Malcolm Butler to the Tennessee Titans, who Malcolm Butler himself, he garnered a lot of attention after being benched essentially for the entire Super Bowl. Typical Titans fashion, they're just picking up the scraps from a New England player and stuff like that. So, obviously Bill Belichick saw something in Malcolm Butler that he didn't like, but the Titans don't care because I think they gave him like a 5-year, $70 million deal or something crazy like that. So, time for Malcolm Butler to go either chill off that fat payday or try to go out and prove everybody wrong and try to prove the Patriots wrong for not playing him in the Super Bowl. And then speaking of, so again, someone goes out, someone else, they got to find a replacement or vice versa. But the Patriots did find a replacement for Malcolm Butler in a trade with the Cleveland Browns. They have acquired Jason McCourty, yes, the brother of Devin McCourty, who they both of them now. And so, kind of hopefully they can upgrade their secondary, hopefully be able to make up for what was subpar defensive back play all last season long. So this definitely is not the end of the signings and stuff like that, and trades and releasings and all that stuff like that. But it was definitely the beginning, and it was very, very, very interesting, and a lot happened in a very short amount of time. But like I said, definitely not the end, and we're definitely going to see more of that stuff happening. So that's going to be it for me today. Like I said, I just wanted to quickly get this stuff out and get back on the swing, and get back into the swing of things, and get back on track. So like always, thank you guys for listening. Make sure you subscribe, tell a friend, and do all that stuff on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, all that good stuff. for all you SoundCloud users out there, look up Brown Mamba Radio. I'm still the only one. And subscribe to the new SoundCloud page. It's exactly the same. It's just I literally had to make a new page. iTunes and Stitchers, guys. If it's something happened and it's not working, refresh it or just unsubscribe or resubscribe. That should work just fine. So yeah, make sure you check that out. And again, I'm trying to get on Google Play, trying to get on TuneIn Radio and all that stuff. So hopefully I can start doing some live episodes with you guys. That'd be great. Like I said, but in the meantime, subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. And make sure you follow along too on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm the only Brown Mamba Radio out there, like I said. Look up Brown Mamba Radio, all that stuff. Or you can follow me on my personal stuff, JXCKSXNNN. That's 3 N's. If you ever want to, yell at me for the stuff I'm saying, and if you don't believe me, if you don't like the way that if you're an Isaiah Thomas stan and you want to get into it with me, or anything like that, or if you just want to say what's up, holla at your boy. So actually follow along, and like I said. Like I always say, everything is available on brownmamba.us, so make sure you check that out. So like I said, time to get out of here. Good luck to everybody still in their fantasy basketball playoffs. Have fun watching the rest of all the madness that takes place in March, later this week and for the rest of the month. And like always, don't just have a good week, everybody. Make it a good week. Drink more water. Health is wealth. Be kind to each other. It's easy to be nice out there. Make a difference in somebody else's life. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.